cryptocurrency and global finance smash right into each other. What if a decentralized crypto network was quietly setting itself up to fit perfectly with a major US government strategy? Let's unpack how that could even be possible.
Stablecoins could lock in dollar dominance for generations to come. Now that's a powerful statement, right? It's from US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and it's really the core idea we're going to explore today. It kind of turns the whole crypto story on its head. Instead of being a threat, what if some digital currencies are actually a key tool for extending the dollar's power around the world?
So that raises the huge question. How? How would that actually work? And more to the point, what in the world does a specific project like Pi Network have to do with this massive, grand strategy? Let's start putting the puzzle pieces together.
Okay, so to really get this connection, we have to start with the big picture. This isn't just about crypto. It's about a national financial strategy.
So the core idea here is that the US government doesn't see these dollar-pegged stablecoins as a rival. No, it sees them as a strategic extension of the dollar. These digital tokens, they could become the new roads, the new rails for global commerce, embedding the dollar right into the very heart of the future digital economy. Now, a strategy this big needs rules for the road, right? A playbook. And to show us what that could look like, the analysis we're digging into here introduces a key concept. It's a specific, and it's really important to stress this, a fictional regulatory framework that could support this whole thing.
It's called the Genius Act. And let's be super clear on this. This is a hypothetical act. It's a thought experiment, not real legislation. Its whole purpose is to be a model for what a US regulatory framework for stablecoins could look like. You know, one designed to build trust and officially bring these digital assets into the mainstream.
So, this theoretical act would build that trust in three key ways. First, one-to-one backing. Every single digital dollar has to be backed by a real dollar or a super safe treasury bill. No funny business. Second, strict audits to prove it. You gotta show the receipts. And third, direct integration. Basically building the bridges to connect these new blockchain systems with the old school economy. You put those together and the goal is to make stablecoins as trustworthy as the dollar you have in your pocket.
Okay, so we've got a national strategy on one side and this hypothetical framework for trust on the other. But how does this connect to a real-world crypto project? Well, this is where Pi Network walks onto the stage.
Now, to understand Pi Network's supposed strategy, you have to see how it's playing a totally different game. On one hand, you've got much of the crypto world, right? It's all about hype, speculation, prices going to the moon and back. But Pi Network is presented as taking the exact opposite road, a path focused on being useful, on being stable, and on lining up with the very same regulatory ideas we just talked about.
At the very heart of this strategy is something called the Pi stablecoin, or Pi dollar. Now, this isn't an asset for traders to bet on. No, it's designed to be a tool. Because it's pegged to one US dollar, it's meant to be a super reliable way to handle payments and buy things. The best way to think of it is less like a volatile stock and way more like a digital dollar bill.
And what's really different here is who's in the driver's seat. It's not some centralized company. Pi's ecosystem is shaped by its users, who are called pioneers. Through what they do, like supporting certain apps or using certain merchants, they all collectively steer the economy. This whole decentralized approach to running things, well, it actually mirrors the spirit of transparency and user protection that a framework like that hypothetical Genius Act would be all about.
So, that's the theory. That's the idea. But is any of this actually happening in the real world? Let's look at how this all moves from just an idea to actual real transactions. And this is where the theory supposedly meets reality. The claim is that merchants are using Pi dollars for the real nuts and bolts of commerce. You know, pricing their goods, settling their invoices, offering discounts. And what's really crucial is that this is apparently happening in places where traditional banking is a huge hassle. That suggests it's solving a real-world problem. This isn't speculation, it's about utility.
Of course, for this kind of commerce to work, you need the right infrastructure. That means tools like the Pi Wallet for easy transactions and, really critically, something called Know Your Business or KYB protocols. You can think of KYB as kind of like a background check for businesses. It's a process designed to make sure the merchants on the network are legitimate. It's a super important piece for building a system that's both compliant and secure.
All right, so let's bring these two threads together. We've got the US government's potential strategy over here, and this decentralized networks approach over there.
The argument being made is that this isn't a story about a fight, but about a really surprising convergence.
Remember when Treasury Secretary Bessent talked about internet-native payment rails? He's basically describing a system that gives anyone, anywhere on the planet, seamless access to the dollar economy. The claim being made is that a project like Pi Network with its stablecoin is basically building those very rails, a global platform for transactions that's built on top of the US dollar.
But look, this isn't some simple success story. It's not that easy. There are some clear strengths for sure, like being proactive about potential regulations and focusing on utility. But the challenges, they are just as real. The project still has to figure out the changing rules, it needs to get on major exchanges, and ultimately, it has to win over the trust of big institutions.
And this all leads to a pretty provocative conclusion. The idea is that by building for compliance and for real-world use from day one, a decentralized project can prove that it doesn't have to be an enemy of national interests. In fact, it could actually become an ally.
And so we end right back where we started, with a really big, thought-provoking question. It's the central tension in this whole idea. Can a platform that's built on decentralization and user control, can it really serve a centralized government's goal? The theory we've explored today argues that yes, it can. But that's a question that only the future can answer. Thanks for joining this explainer.